Welcome back. Now let's get a touch of this market feel now and see exactly how things have fared then. Across the Asian region, we saw the Hang Seng out in Hong Kong go down around 0.8%, mainly positive across the rest of the main indices then, but not too much really to write home about in that regard. Negativity though across most of the European markets, 0.33% down for the FTSE 100, the CAC 40 only sliding down ever so slightly, but this is only for now in this lunchtime trade. At the same time, local markets have also gone down 0.33% today, 54,524 points at present. The biggest losers across that board have been the platinum shares, which have actually been crossed down with gold mining shares. So those two have meant that resources have overall gone down 0.8%. But there is some positivity. Financials, including the banks, have gone up 0.7%. So better picture on that front, with South Africa's listed property more than 1% higher as well. In terms of shares that have also gone up, the likes of Massmart, the retailer, going up 7.5% to more than 30 Rand a share on that front. More than 7% gained as well for Redefine. That property company will certainly enjoy that one there, with PSG Consult also 5% to the good there, 7 Rand and 18 cents for a share on that front. Hammerson has also gone down nearly 9% today. Capital and Counties, which was sitting in the red yesterday, continues to sit in the red today. And you also get more property counters sitting as well in the red, 3.7% weaker. Attack also down. So seemingly the property stocks not necessarily enjoying themselves, only Redefine really managing to get some positivity. Onto the commodities board then as well. Brent crude has gone down 0.4% to set at $42.25 a barrel there. In terms of the platinum commodity as well, that's at $880 a fine ounce on that front. It's up 0.2%. Similar picture for gold. Pretty much a lot of the commodities headed higher except for Brent crude. Still questions around demand really weighing into the market. The less demand there is for oil, the lower the price goes, because they're trying to, of course, lure more people to buy it, and that's why you see it going down at present 0.4%. And your currencies, well, we continue to hang in and around that 17 Rand against the US dollar mark, so it's 0.2% stronger for the local currency, but not really much to write home about after those jobs numbers. Against the euro then, we're a similar mark, weaker should I say there, while against the British pound we're sitting exactly with the same mark, but a little bit more strength. So bit of a mixed picture across that currency board. Let's unpack the jobs numbers a little bit more again then, and we'll get to that interview right after this. All right then, Mike Schussler joins us then from economist.co.za. Mike, the numbers come out, 23.3%. Did you get shocked at all to see that?
Yeah, I did get a bit shocked because, it's way lower than we thought. But then we must remember that the definition is the big thing here. You have to go out and look for a job to be officially unemployed. And during the lockdown, obviously people couldn't go and look for jobs because the workplaces were closed and you were supposed to be at home. So with that, people couldn't look for jobs. So the jobless number or the unemployment number declined, but so too did the number of people employed also declined. So the best way to look at it is that before the lockdown, 42.5% of South African adults worked. And during the lockdown, only 36.5% of adults worked. So it's a 6% decline in the number of adults working. And that gives you a far better idea and understanding what's going on. Because the problem is with definitions is you've got to stick to your definitions, but in very exceptional circumstances, like during a lockdown, they don't really tend to tell the truth.
Yeah, what a weird set of numbers. Is there any point then in using the narrow definition of unemployment? Should we not just really be using that expanded definition? 42% sounds more like the right number in this regard.
Yes, 42% is more like the right number. It's probably also underestimating that, because when you ask people, will you go and work within a week, or can you work within a week? Many people who are locked down would say no, because the business is not going to be open, or I'm not going to be able, I'm scared of going out, I might get COVID. So, even that number is probably under declaring the actual true disaster that's happening in South Africa at the present. And I think we should rather look at that number being, say, 4 or 5% higher, or basis points, 400, 500 basis points higher. And that would leave you with about 45, 46, 47% unemployment in the expanded definition. And that gives you a fairly a good idea as to what's going on. I mean, there's never been a period in our history where in one quarter more than 2 million people lost their jobs.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, the unemployment rate itself actually goes down. So, yeah, I guess economics is a weird one in that sense, or statistics really are just a weird one in that sense. Also then, we still are waiting President Cyril Ramaphosa's supposed plan here to try and get this economy back onto its feet in some way or other. Are we getting anywhere? I mean, we haven't seen anything. How does that spark confidence on anybody, including the investor community?
Well, I think we really need the plan, but we don't just need a plan, we need implementation. And South Africa is full of plans. And I think with the number of plans that we've had over time not being implemented, that's also destroyed a lot of investor confidence. So the longer that the president and the government take to announce this, it will take more effort from us to convince investors, and not just investors, but just normal businesses, to just expand a little bit, because people are scared right now, and they've had a very big, this COVID and the lockdown, specifically the lockdown, had a very big impact. And I think a lot of people are just at the verge, I wouldn't say of giving up, but just not continuing at the same speed as before, because they feel that they don't need, an extra income anymore. They're just really slowing their pace, and that worries me a lot.
If they continue to slow their pace like that, I mean, as you said, it really puts us in an even more dire situation for the country. But one of the other things here is that our government is now going to focus on trying to save or help restructure an airline that has continued to just steal money away from the projects that needed to be completed. And we're committing to this task in one way or another. Yes, maybe the finance minister is asking for more stringent conditions, but hasn't that always been our problems, that we've continued to just shift our focus and tilt elsewhere, and that's not going to help us?
Exactly. And the airline industry around the world today is more done by the private sector, who take the risks. I'm very worried about the ability of people to get to work on Prasa Rail, for example, at the moment. And I think government should be putting money into that mode of transport. And that would have a bigger impact, because the poor people use rail, rich people fly. And those railway lines take people to work every day. And at the moment, a lot of stealing is going on there. And we've seen pictures of destroyed tracks and destroyed infrastructure, and people just building houses on the railway lines. I think those are the sort of things that we really need our government to focus. Don't focus on the nice to haves, focus on the necessary, and then also focus on industries that have efficiencies already built in. For example, I think our broader agriculture, food processing, and the supply chain that goes with it is world class, and they're doing it without subsidies. So how do we help them? Because they are going to create jobs in the rural areas, particularly in the deep rural areas is where we need a lot of jobs, because people don't have work there and they don't have many choices. And those jobs are also cheaper to create to start off with. So I think, we've got to start making the right choices. But to employ 1,000 people at 10 billion rand, this is not something that the country can afford. Quite frankly, there are much, much better things to do.
Mike Schussler, appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you so much for it. Some frank words there coming from the man at the helm of economist.co.za, Mike Schussler. Let's take a quick ad.